All right, great. Why don't you go ahead and we'll just do a couple of the intro slides while people are still gathering,
Perfect.
and then we can get going. So my name is Andy Gray. I'm president of Strategy Leaders, and am delighted to have an opportunity to talk with interested business owners. We've got background, Dahlia. Something's clicking away. Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
There we go. There we go. Okay. I'm delighted to have you all here and have a chance to talk with you about building successful long haul businesses, which is our expertise and something we've been working on for over 25 years. We started this work, or I started this work at Columbia University, where I did research with an American economist and business historian, looking at how to use privately held owner-operated businesses as a backbone for a successful 21st century economy. Here at Strategy Leaders, we have a skilled team of employees who are specialists at working on growth and development with the owners and management teams of privately held companies. We've got experience over the 25 years in lots of industries. It is fascinating to me how many ways business owners find to make a living. We do work nationwide from East Coast to West Coast, North to South, and offer a broad set of services, which I'll get into in just a second. And I would encourage anyone here to ask us for a free consultation and come and explore the possibilities for your business. So if we go to the next slide, I can get more into the specifics of ways that we do help our clients doing valuations. So helping to understand the value of the business at any particular point in time, helping business owners build key performance indicators, tracking those, using data into dashboards to forecast and do what if modeling. Core to our business is business growth with business plans, and that's what we're going to be talking about for the most part today. We do a lot of transition planning and implementation, so how to get from one generation to the next, including next generation training and development. There's a lot of executive coaching and management team development that goes into that. And then from time to time, we also are asked by clients that we're working with to assist them either in buying another business so they can expand, or in selling one or more of the businesses that they own at present. And be happy to talk with you about any of these services. So with that in mind, let's get on to today's topic. So what we're going to be talking about today is building a business that lasts, and some of the things that you need to take into account in order to make that happen for your business. And as a little bit of background, Ali, if you go to the next slide, we have 5 stages of business growth and ownership that we looked at starting at Columbia. The first 2 are the ones that we're particularly interested in and concerned about, where the company is privately held and owner operated. Stages 3, 4, and 5 are where the companies go public. That's not something that we're concerned about. We recognize that in stages 1 and 2, privately held, the value of the company, the wealth of the company remains within the community and exists for the benefit of the owners and employees, and then builds wealth within the community as a result, which is what we really are focused on. The difference between stage 1 and stage 2 is that in stage 1, the company, this is where all businesses start. And as you can see, the green bars are indications of size. This is the most of all businesses in our economy. The companies start here. They are informal in terms of systems and management, and they can be in this stage anywhere from their startup phase all the way through multiple generations of running the business. The difference between stage 1 and stage 2 is that in stage 2, what we call the business builder stage, the business is run for deliberate growth, profit, stability, and predictability. And we find that companies do make the transition from stage 1 to stage 2, not necessarily because they think it's a good idea. They recognize there are benefits, but they generally are driven to it by hitting bottom at some point in their company. So whether it's that things are not going well, the owner is getting frustrated, there's something that happens with the ownership team that requires some kind of change, that's what drives the shift from looking at stage 1 to trying to figure out how to get to stage 2. So if you go to the next slide, Dahlia, in terms of making the transition, as I said, the majority of businesses are in stage 1. It's something like 93 to 96% of all businesses in this country, that they're stuck with the habits that are often counterproductive and do not lead to long-term profitability. The transition to stage 2, however, doesn't just happen. It takes the addition of skills and practices that are not currently present in the business, and we're going to talk a little bit more about what those skills and practices mean. However, the rewards of going to stage 2 are significant. Reduced volatility, more resilience in the business, so the business has more survivability, and clearly in stage 2, you can deliver outsized profit and then also sustainability that goes with that. So what do we do at Strategy Leaders to help get you from stage 1 to stage 2? Our job is multifaceted. In working with you, we are looking at not just you, the individual owner, but the business overall, the management team, the employees, many times the advisors, whether it's the accountants, the attorneys who work with the company. We get involved with all of them. And it takes the range from brainstorming, figuring out, assessing what's going on, training and coaching, helping to prepare both the current and the next generation, assisting with ownership opportunities and transitions. And ultimately, the goal is to build thriving companies and to create wealth for our clients. So that wealth then, again, stays within the company, goes to the benefit of the owners and the employees of the company, and then stays within the community. So let's go to the next slide, Dahlia. In terms of what we're doing in our program, we're offering our clients a strategic planning and tactical reporting program that's engineered to address the challenges of 1, 3, and 5-year goals. What are they? How do you accomplish them? How do you stay on track with them? We do take a comprehensive approach to both the planning and the education process, looking at what we consider to be the drivers for success: sales, finance, marketing, operations, human resources, and very important, leadership across the organization. Our job is to add knowledge that is designed to help the company meet future challenges, so the company becomes smarter over time, and to shift the focus for the business and the owners and managers from working in the business, dealing with the day-to-day challenges that they're facing, to working on the business, having the bandwidth and the skills and the ability to plan out where they're going to go and then figure out how they're going to execute on that plan. Now, in terms of laying a foundation for long-term success, we want you to be aware that teamwork and integrated planning across all of the business functions is crucial. And so this is about also sharing knowledge across the organization, getting people engaged to take action, and making sure that they are aligned in their decision-making and implementation. I think it's important that you build a roadmap to drive accountability and engagement. So it's not just saying, here's where we want to go, but it also having the tools to make sure that you are on track, people are engaged, and people are accepting accountability for what has to happen. There's a big focus, as I've said already, on business skill development and driving value, which means predictable growth, building better cash reserves so that the company can self-sustain sustain, and then building strong management. I will tell you that when we talk with our clients and we say to them, you need cash reserves, they'll start out by saying, look, I don't have a lot and I don't know how to build that, and that's fine. It takes time, but it is possible to do. And then finally, as I said earlier, what we focus on is designing and following a model that will double revenue and triple profit. And we would encourage all of you who are thinking about making this transition to stage 2 to make sure that you're focused on that as well. It's not just about working hard, it's about working smart, and working smart then delivers results to the bottom line. And with that, I'm going to step back for a minute and turn it over to Dahlia and let you hear a little bit about the experience of a client of ours.
Of layers of management and a huge team behind me and the ability to do anything.
One sec, sorry guys, I'm having an audio issue. Let me just take care of that really quick.
I think it was okay, Dahlia.
Okay, let me try this again and see if it's good now.
There you go.
And a huge team behind me and the
Now you've lost the sound.
Anything, which I felt was.
So why don't we keep going? We can send you anyone who wants a clip of this if you want to talk, you understand what clients are going through in this program, what they're getting out of it. That's fine. We're happy to share that information with you. Let's go on to the next slide, Dahlia. So in terms of driving a program forward, I've talked about this a bit already. I encourage all of you to think about, where do I want to be in 1 year? Where do I want to be in 3 years? And then where do I want to be in 5 years? Mapping out both the goals and then the action plans. What are the steps that you have to go through in order to get there? So how do you walk from here, where you are today, to the end goals? And mapping that out then will give you the ability to track progress, which you can also then bolster with key performance indicators that you can track on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And that'll help you measure progress, which you then also can bolster with dashboards and ultimately build those into predictive models. So for example, we're talking we've brought on a company recently, and the owner is really struggling to get a picture as to what's going on. And it was clear for us when we looked at his reporting that it just wasn't set up to talk to him and tell him what's going on. But within the first month, we've already developed about 80% of the clarity that we need. Within another month, I think we're going to have a great understanding of what's happening in that business. What's he bringing in? What's he actually collecting? What is happening with the profitability of the work? What's happening with his carrying costs and his overhead? And then what's happening over on the balance sheet with paying off loans, managing the cash that he has, and making sure that there's enough money at the end of the day to get everything done. We do then also encourage you to make sure that you have monthly reviews in place. We're doing when you work with us, you've got coaching on a continuous basis and hands-on support, not just from me, but from any of the staff that you're working on, to ensure that things are staying on track. So you've got various experts to turn to and to ask help for as you're dealing with the day-to-day challenges in the business. So when it comes to overcoming challenges in growth planning, some of the common hurdles that we see, and I want you to feel like you're not alone if this is some of the stuff you're running into, are that they're stuck in their comfort zone. The business is just, this is good. I'm here. I'm happy. But the problem is things don't stay status quo from year to year, and eventually that comfort zone isn't good enough. We also do run into issues either with the owner or the management team in terms of controlling, either too much control or the too little. So it's kind of like the Goldilocks of how much do you control and how do you control it, and then how do you engage more of the people in the organization in understanding what it takes to control and to manage the risk profile. And again, the risk profile is another Goldilocks. I see businesses and business owners who are high risk takers, and I see other business owners that are low risk takers. You've got to find that right balance. There's enough risk to move the business forward, but not so much that you put the business in trouble. There's also very common in businesses, they just lack resources. So when you start a privately held, owner-operated business in that entrepreneurial stage, everybody's a multitasker. But as the business grows, you begin to need to build experts who can actually support the owner and provide advice and experience to the owner beyond what the owner himself or herself may know how to do. And that lack of knowledge, if you don't have that in place, is what begins to hold the business back. And so how we help businesses clear these hurdles, again, coaching sessions with highly knowledgeable coaches who have been there and seen it, tracking and acknowledging progress so that people can build their confidence rate, so that they can understand better what they want to do in the future, learning how to break problems into small bites so that, and that was actually something that Craig was talking about in the early webinar, that he thought it was impossible when we first talked with him, but he learned that you don't have to do it all today. You figure out what's going to happen, you figure out what the obstacles are, and then you start eating the elephant one bite at a time. We do believe that it's really important to engage the full workforce. This is one of the problems that a lot of businesses owners run into, is they train their employees to come to them for the answers rather than training their own employees to be comfortable and confident with coming forward with the answers. And that's a big shift. If you're going to make that transition, you do need to make it clear what's expected. Here's where we're going, and here's how I expect people to fall in line with that, and then supply the experience and education that people need in order to grow. One of the clients we have right now, we're working with a management team underneath the owner that is now learning to work down below those individuals. And what they're finding is people all the way down on the front line, they're giving them more responsibility and decision-making authority, and those employees are stepping up and they're saying, hey, I feel appreciated because you're asking me what I think I should be doing about the things I know about. That's a huge opportunity to disperse and drive forward the activities of the business. So with that, let's go take a look at the next slide. What you really want to make sure you're accomplishing when you're working on growing and developing the business, for the owner, you're getting peace of mind and confidence in your decision making. What I find happens so often with business owners is the bigger the business gets, the more challenging it gets, the peace of mind goes out the window, and the confidence gets rocked when things don't go well. And that causes them then to step back on the risk profile, step back in terms of taking the initiatives they need to take to get beyond the roadblocks and hurdles that they're standing on. For the team, you want to focus on alignment, productivity, and a clear focus on this is what we have to get done, and make sure that everybody understands and knows how to follow that. Then when you're working with the business overall, you want predictable growth. So a steady growth rate year after year, increased market value that comes from driving profitability and increasing competitive profile, and resilience that comes from building a solid base for the business that can then continue to grow and thrive. And I will tell you that building that solid base includes not just growing organically, which is a lot of what we're talking about here today, but also looking at the role of acquisitions. I can make a leap over a problem by bringing in another business. I can add some talent, I can add some revenue, I can add some customers. So always think about what are my other options, not just bang your head into organic growth to drive the business forward. And then both for the last and the next generation, make sure that you're building a business worth owning. I hear so many business owners say, hey, I wouldn't turn it over to my employees or my kids because I don't want them to have the headaches I have. If that's what you're saying, it's time for a change. And you want to make sure in terms of the next generation, if you are looking at employees or you're looking at family members, that you engage them in the business in a productive fashion, not just as the gophers for whatever you need done right now, because that is not what's going to build their confidence that the business will be worth owning. You want them to be engaged in this is what the future looks like and excited about that. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So in terms of building a plan that'll get you there, here are some questions I would encourage you to answer. Where do you want to go? What do you want in your life? What do you want the business to look like? Put it down on paper, make good solid notes. Then the second piece is why bother? And I think this is a really important question that a lot of business owners and even a lot of consultants skip over. But it is equally as important as where, because if it's not enough good answers to the why, it's going to be hard to commit. So make sure that why has a lot of value long term. Then you start in with the brainstorming, what stands in the way, and how do you solve it. And as you work through the brainstorming, you want to lay out a track that you can follow. Here's what we have to do this week. Here's what we have to do this month. And here's what we have to do next quarter. Then as you've laid out that track to follow on, you also need to set a very clear methodology for how you're going to track progress. So action steps, are they done? Are they done on time? Who needs help? What isn't getting done that needs attention? Get it to pop up at you so you can recognize it and deal with it. And then use KPIs to focus. This is what we're trying to deliver on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And as you work on those KPIs, it also helps you to understand, are we actually correctly forecasting the way this is going to work? And with that, we do have another client story. I don't know if we're going to be able to play it or not. Dahlia, let's give it one shot and see.
Okay, I'm gonna try right now.
I like the fact that I could see her one-on-one, and generally speaking, I just had a good feeling with her. One of the things I remember most, starting with strategy leaders and working with Andy Gray, is that we had to build a 5-year plan, which included marketing, sales, finance, operations, human resource, all these different aspects of the business that every business owner should be aware of and should be working on. And I can clearly tell you I was not working on all those areas. If anything, I was working on operations, and that's generally it. And Andy brought to my attention probably halfway down the road of our experience together. She called me out on it. A lot of times she'll present something to me that's a change, and I'll be like, I don't know how that's going to happen. And then 2 weeks later, I'd be like, okay, I figured out a way. So it became quite evident that Andy was pushing me. Andy is pushing me in a direction that may be outside my comfort zone. And I learned about myself that I can get there. So that's the biggest takeaway that I had. When Total Turf came across possible business acquisitions throughout the past years, we leaned on Andy Gray and strategy leaders to get a good opinion on whether the valuation was there. From that point forward, we leaned on them to deal with issues that came up, whether it was HR issues or a sales and marketing issue. But those were the main points that we hit on when we had to start our acquisition process. Would Total Turf buy a company or acquire another company without consulting with a strategy leaders type consultant? Absolutely not. No way. I mean, I might be confident to a degree, but to do it without a consultant like strategy leaders, in my opinion, would be foolish. Total Turf, since we started with strategy leaders, has changed its revenue probably 5-fold. We've gone from probably a dozen or so employees to 4 dozen now. Customers, we've grown that clientele as well, and we've acquired 2 businesses as well. Total Turf probably would not be as successful as it is today if it had not hired strategy leaders back in 2008. Without the knowledge I gained from hiring strategy leaders and going through their program, I wouldn't have had the tools that I have today to evaluate and take a look at things that or opportunities that come my way. So it was imperative, I think, to hire strategy leaders in order for me to get where I am today.
One of the things that I'll say that we really pride ourselves on is working in development rounds. So, for example, with Jason, as he said, we started in 2008, we went through a development round, and then we backed out. It's time for him to go on and work on other things. And then over time, he's brought us back to help him on the acquisitions. And then in this past year, he brought us back to work on the development of his management team. So getting ready for the next growth leap for the business. And that's really what we pride ourselves on, is these long-term relationships that are based on engagement, activity, results, back out, digest, go work on other things, and then when you need help, come back and get more. So with that, Dahlia, let's just talk about, we're going to close this discussion out.
I like the fact that
If you do have any interest in learning more about what we do, as I said earlier in this webinar, please come and talk to us about a free diagnostic consultation. We really believe in understanding what it is you need and helping you understand what you need and making sure that that is even a fit for what we do before we start running the clock on you. We want to make sure that you are comfortable and have a good understanding of where you're going. If it's us, great. If it's not, we probably talk to 1,000 companies a year, and we'll give you some advice on what else to look for, what else to think about, what the timing looks like. We're happy to give you good advice before we start running the clock, because we've decided it's a fit for us to work together. The contact details and the scheduling link are in the chat. My phone number is on the bottom of every one of the slides here, as well as my email address. Please reach out and talk to us. I love talking to business owners and would love to hear your story. And with that, I think we're going to go to some Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you, Andy. So a first question that has come through is talking a bit about financial dashboards. You had mentioned that as something that you guys offer, and they're wondering what makes yours better than other competitor.
Good question. So our dashboards we've developed them ourselves. They're proprietary, and they are unique in that they are both designed to provide information about what's going on now based on your financial reporting, as well as then using that information to model and forecast a picture of the future. And one of the things that you need to understand about us is we're experts at sales and marketing, as well as financial analysis and operational competence. And because of that, we can bring all of those factors into the dashboard and start providing you with information that's going to help you figure out what has to happen next, what's working, what's not working, and where the adjustments need to be made. And as we work with our clients, we don't just give them a dashboard and say, here's the tool, go look at it. We actually talk with our clients every single month about what's in that dashboard, what we think it's saying. We notate it with comments from the client and from ourselves, so there's an historical record. And we also have staff that is at the finance MBA level that is doing in-depth analysis as to what's going on.
Great answer. Thank you, Andy. This is a really good question. I think this will be good to answer. How do I know if my business is ready to move from day-to-day operations to strategic growth planning?
Good question. I would say that first of all, it depends on how long you've been in business. Usually the first 3 years are just figuring out the business. Who are my customers? How do I deliver my services? What am I going to do next? And in that stage, I would really focus primarily on the business side. I'm sorry, on the in the business side. So the tactical stuff that you have to do. Um, I find that most business owners, if they have a business plan, they wrote it at the very beginning of the business, but they haven't come back to it. So usually after that 3-year mark and then on into multi-generational, that's when you need to start doing more planning. In terms of figuring out if this is the right time, I would look at how many frustrations am I running into? How do I, how many questions do I have? How stuck am I, or how stuck is the business? So if you find that you're bouncing within a bandwidth, so we're at this level in terms of revenue and this level in profitability, and we nudge it up and then drop down and nudge it up and drop down, but we never seem to break through that ceiling, that's an excellent time to take a look at what else can I do by moving to stage 2.
Great. Great answer. Thank you, Andy.
Mhm.
How do you recommend balancing short-term needs with the long-term strategic goals?
And it is a balancing act. I think that what you need to build is the skill over time that the tactical reporting supports evaluation of the planning process, and the planning process provides the context for where you're trying to go that then drives you back to those tactical next steps that have to happen to get you there. And when you get those two fully integrated, that's when the company really becomes productive on a planning and tactical side. Now, you also have to support that with evaluation or reporting tools. So who's struggling, who's getting stuff done, who's needs some additional information or training, what information is missing that we keep banging into a problem and not making progress with it. Being sure that you should let go of some things. So not everything that you want to do is going to get done. And sometimes it's as important to let go of something as it is to hang on to something.
Awesome. Thank you, Andy. We have a question here from Alicia in the chat. She's asking, when working on our finances and report, do you connect with our accountants?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's really important that we engage the accounting firm to the extent that they're willing to be engaged. They have more history than we do usually when we're starting. They've been there for a while. I will say that most accountants are focused on the cash basis, and they're also focused on tax planning, which is not business planning. So we'll talk with them about, we want to develop both tracks so that we can use the business planning to drive where we're trying to go with the business, and then the tax planning to measure the success of that. But we have generally pretty good results with accounting firms. Our head of finance gets engaged with the accountants and is able to explain to them, this is where we are, this is what we want to do, here are some things that we think would make sense, and talk it out with the accounting firm.
Awesome. Thank you, Andy. I'm just looking here. What risks should I prepare for as I implement a growth strategy? Are there any common risks that you've experienced with small businesses starting out in a program like this?
So again, I think there was a slide in here that talked to some extent about the challenges that businesses run into. First one is one that comes up on my list all the time is finance. And do you have enough reserves to keep the company safe? So when I talk to business owners, a lot of times when I first talk with them, they'll say, well, I have a credit line. A credit line is not something that's going to keep this company safe. It's available as a tool to support the company, but it is there because the bank has made it available to you, and the bank may or may not continue making it available to you, depending on what your finances look like, and also what the bank's intentions are in terms of the industries it wants to play in and the risk testing that it wants to do. The we have a client right now that is doing an acquisition, and as they're doing that acquisition, they went back to their primary bank, who has been a great banker for a long time, and said, we need an extension of our credit line, and the bank turned them down. Now, I understand why the bank turned them down, because the bank did not have a good understanding of what the finances of the new business were going to look like as they rolled into the existing business. But we didn't stop there. We went back out to a resource that we work with a lot and said, hey, Joel, we need you to work with this company and help them explore their opportunities for an additional credit line, and then get that done. Now, we needed to do that because the client, not because the client needed the money, but because the client already has a significant reserve fund that they do not want to crash through or in any way disrupt, because that's there, if all of you will remember, for things like COVID. So when business shuts down, you've got to have enough resources that you don't have to go and unwind all the work that you've done by letting people go, selling off equipment, losing clients, and having to start over. That pool of money that you build as a reserve is probably your biggest risk protector. And I will tell you, 99% of the clients that I talk to when I first start talking to them do not have enough reserves. But when we get done, they do. Another risk factor is, as business owners, not recognizing that the relationship with employees is really about making sure that employees are engaged, committed, have the education that they need, and understand where you're trying to get to. And I find a lot of times employees, owners are frustrated with their employees, and maybe deservedly so, but it's also because they're not doing enough communication and enough of the right communication. So if you don't have full support from your employees, from the front line all the way through the management team, and them starting to take a lead, that's going to increase the burden on you. And then what I see is owners get frustrated. Why do they keep coming to me for the answers? Everybody leans on me. It all lands on my desk. The monkey sits on my back. I hear that all the time. And the longer you let that go on, the less likely you are to want to continue the business. And then the third risk factor that I see is accepting and tolerating that the business is on a downturn and not reacting fast enough. So if the business starts a downturn, it's something that will destroy, for most business owners, their desire to be there. And once the business owner gives up, then the business is going to be gone sooner or later. I think there's one more risk factor that's worth considering, which is not preparing the business for exit soon enough. Looking 5-10 years ahead. Who is going to own this company next? How do I prepare this company for that transition? And how do I prepare whoever I think it's going to be to actually engage with us years down the road? It's possible to do, but it is an entirely different game from the game of running the business. And most business owners are so focused on the game of running the business that they do not invest enough time and energy in where's this business going to go when I'm ready to be done with it.
Awesome. Thank you, Andy. We have one other question here. Is the first year of a business completely out of my expertise too soon to start with your services?
Sorry, ask me that question again.
Is the first year on a business that is completely out of my expertise too soon to start with your services?
My answer to that would be, let's have a conversation, and we may be able to provide you with some coaching support or some advice. I don't think you're going to need a full-blown development program. Some of it will depend on how much experience you have in other businesses. Figuring out this industry and where this industry is going and being able to map that. Those are probably the big challenges that you're going to have. And I'm not sure that that's what we would be able to help you with, but I'm happy to talk you through what resources you might need in order to boost your confidence.
Great. Thank you, Andy. I think that's all of our questions for today.
Okay.
Go on to the
All right. Well, great. Guys, please, folks, please ask us for a copy of the presentation. Put your request and email in the chat window. Let us know who you are. I love talking to business owners, and would be just delighted to learn more about the business that you have and the adventure that you're pursuing. It is a wonderful and important thing to be doing. And I would love to talk to you about how to make it the most successful thing that you've ever had.
Great. Thank you. Thanks everybody for joining.
Talia, thank you for your help today.
Sounds good. Bye now.